How's it going? My name's Brent from Encore PPF and Tint, and today we are going to install some paint protection film, and we're going to be bulking it on the hood of a brand new 2025 Kia K5. So this is the EX model, and we're going to bulk all this in one piece. We're going to use a 4-corner tack. We're using the Premium Shield Next Gen, and that's all the info. That's all the info I got for this. So we did go ahead and clean up, make sure to clean all the edges underneath with rubbing alcohol. We clay barred, and now we're ready to go. So when we start this process, what I'm gonna do is remove the backing off of the film. So I put the film up here on the glass, film side on the glass. Whoops. That's not how that's supposed to go. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. All right. So that's the way I like to get these prepped, is by removing that backing first on the peel board. And now that is ready to go. And then what we're gonna do is come over here. We're gonna give this a final cleaning, and then we're gonna bring that film over really quick and get it laid on here, because the less time that this is open to the environment, the less time there is for any particles or anything in the air to drop on it. All right. So go ahead, I'm using the 1-pass squeegee here to do our final cleaning. Let's apply some slip solution to this and get our pattern over, or get our piece of film, our bulk piece of film over here, and lay it on the hood. So I'm doing this by myself today, and the way that I do that is to grab here about 3/4 of the way up, come underneath, hold the film up at 3/4 again. Then I will lay this on here and flop that over. Okay, and then let's get this laid out, make sure we're up plenty high enough. Oh, you know, that's fine. We have plenty of coverage, but you know, that's fairly close. It's totally, that's plenty, but just make sure you're always cutting enough from like left to right, because when you come up short, it's so much work to either to really get a ton of stretch in that film to make that piece work, or you're throwing that away, and that's, that gets pricey. So always make sure you're getting plenty of length from left to right as well as forward. I'm never really trying to like save material when I'm doing something like this. Like, I'm not worried about 3 inches of material on the edge. I'd prefer to have that over coming up short. All right, let's go ahead and do a 4-corner tack on this. And since we have plenty of stuff, or plenty of extra material here in the front, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that we're back a little bit extra, because that way we can tack to this A-pillar here really well. And we have no problems with when we pull this forward on the stretch of this part. Basically, if you're right at the edge, this part, when you pull forward, will slide down a little and potentially not give you full coverage there. And that's a huge mess. So always, keep an eye on this coverage here. Make sure you've got plenty. Woo! How we doing over here? Oh, we wrapped around the chair here. Get on out of here. All right, let's take a look at this real quick. I feel like I'm starting to tack on the edges, and actually, I don't know, it feels like fine. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Now let's go ahead. We'll get some tack in here. And what we don't want to do is get a bunch of tack in the hood area. We just want the tack in the area we're going to be sticking down. We don't want this to start tacking out in the hood at all. So let's actually, I'm going to give this just a little bit of stretch from left to right, just to make sure that we don't get a finger. When we pull forward, a lot of times you can create a finger in the middle. So just a gentle stretch from left to right just ensures that you don't have that problem. Okay, great. Let's stretch down to the front now. We're gonna be tacking to the bumper here. So with this piece here, with this stretch we're gonna do on this corner, what we're looking to do is get rid of all the fingers up the side and then, you know, roughly half the fingers out here. So that looks really good. And then let's go ahead and get this to stick down here. Okay, come over to this side now, and we'll stretch this one down after getting a little tack on here. Now we want all these edges to be glassed out. We don't want any fingers left. So, and you just want enough stretch on that to get rid of the fingers. Don't overstretch, don't extra stretch. That's just, you're thinning the material out. The more stretch you put on this, the thinner the material is on the hood. And your more tension you're gonna have on your edges and stuff. We only want enough to get rid of those fingers, and then we're good. All right. Now, let's take a look and see what we've got here. Let's make sure we're not pre-tacking here, and we were just a little bit. So this is pre-tacking in here. And so what I did was just take the film back over here where it's not pre-tacking and wiggle it a little, and that got that to break loose. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of some of these bigger air pockets so that we don't have, those will cause some pre-tacking around the edges of the air pocket. So let's get rid of some of those right now. Go ahead and do the same thing out further here towards the middle. Okay. You can see I was lifting up a little bit there on the film, and that was just to make sure that we had an area for all this air and water to go out when I'm squeegeeing this with my hand or arm here. If this edge starts to pre-tack at all, you're just gonna push this up and then it's not gonna go out, it's just gonna go like this. Okay, let's check this part now. Good, we're still floating really well there. Okay, we did end up with a few fingers here left over. That means we could have given a little bit more stretch. I'm not sure exactly how that happened because we did stretch this way, but that is not a huge deal. Those are plenty small enough to work with. All right, let's get a mist on there, or that's a pretty good spray actually. And let's start working this out of here. So today, just because I want to, I'm gonna start at the back and then work my way forward. So let's go ahead and take this stuff up and out the back. Make sure you're leaving good, you know, that you're doing good overlapping strokes so you're not leaving any water behind. And then right now, let's see, how do I want to work this? So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this stuff out to the side right here. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're past that body line now. Now we're gonna work down past this next body line and then all the way out. And I'm gonna go ahead and pause right there. Let's get this side laid down. And we are gonna have a little bit of an issue here because this right here is popping up. Now there's a way to fix that. So let's do that right now. And what we're gonna do is wish that we had more tack solution in our bottle. You think I've come prepared, especially when I'm making a video of this stuff. And then I'm gonna tack this down here up closer towards the hood, and that there tacked more down to the fender closer is going to keep this stuff pretty stuck down. And actually there still is, so there's some tension in there, and that's causing that to pop up. So we're not going to be able to correct that like I thought we were, but that's fine. I'll show you how to deal with that. All right, so let's go ahead. This side will then be handled just a tiny bit different than the other side, but let's start by getting rid of this top part and getting it all pushed out. Oh, we've got quite a bit here. This is interesting. It's different than the other side. So this isn't going down either. And what I would have wanted to do, and which I'm gonna do, is then we're gonna lift this up a little and get some tack solution or slip solution in there, sorry. And then we will just leave that alone for now, and we'll come back to that. That made a mess on this edge here. And we want to get the bulk of this stuff out, but we don't want to completely push all this out like we had done before, because we want plenty of moisture to stay in there so we don't have that start tacking up early. And now that we're to here, we can go ahead and take this out, and we can leave that in there as well. Now let's bring all the rest of this stuff forward and get this out. So we'll start out here in the middle. I'm just coming all the way down to the front. Good passes, plenty of overlapping. Usually about half of my squeegee is overlapping and the other half is squeegeeing out new stuff. Now that we're getting to this body line here, it's gonna be easier and more effective to just bring it over like this. Because like this, you're gonna have to make sure and put a ton of pressure, and not a ton isn't the right word, but a lot, in order to get this squeegee to contour down into this recess while you're going across it like this, because you see that gap it leaves in there, and you're gonna have to try and push that down in there. Now the problem with pushing that down in there like that is that you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on the material, and that's really too much for all this area that's already starting to stick down, because if you move any of that material at all, you're gonna leave little distortions in the adhesive. So we want to be more gentle than that on the material. So let's go ahead then, continue towards the front here. Okay, we'll come over the edge here. All right, now let's see what we want to do here. Really, I kind of think the way that I would handle this, because this is going to be tacking right here, because it's got so much tension on that edge. So I don't want to try pushing this rest of the slip solution out in this edge. So I'm gonna bring this stuff over like this, and then this stuff down, and then basically bring it all to this area, push it out, and then we'll put some tack solution on these fingers right here. Okay. Let's just double check, make sure that we got everything squeegeed out, because those, you know, any little water that you leave in here is super easy to get out right now, and then as it starts to dry, it just gets more difficult and more difficult, and you get to the point where you're going to be affecting the install. When we can just do a second pass over that, it takes a couple seconds, and we make sure that we got everything. All right, so I'm just kind of looking out over the material here and making sure that I squeegeed everything out. We don't have like air pockets or water pockets. We don't have any hair or anything in there. And then let's go ahead and get rid of this stuff now and get this out, because that added a little bit of, okay. So because we need to take care of this, so we've got a little bit of stuff popping up here, but we don't want to take care of that just yet, because that's on the edge and that's very easy to manage. at the edge. Obviously we would get some pre-tacking or something out here because we spent too much time out messing with other things. We're gonna have a real problem if it's out in the middle. And because that's on the edge, we can let that just sit there and we're not worried about that. It's not as, let's see, I don't know how I want to say that. Look at that. With that sentence, I took off and nowhere to land. All right, let's bring this stuff over. See, we're even getting some pre-tacking on this line here because it's got more tension on it than these open areas. Ooh, look at that. We got a little bit of air right there. So let's go ahead and lift this up. Get a plenty of tack in there and lift up to that point. And then we can let that lay back down. And then let's squeegee this out. Okay, let's take all this out the front there. And then same thing, bringing everything over to here. So that front edge is definitely already starting to pre-tack as well. Okay, then we'll bring this across. The longer the film sits on these ridges, the more pre-tacking you're gonna have on those. Okay, so we're bringing all this stuff out to the corner here. Double check things. Okay, everything is looking good so far. Okay, we've got some stuff to take care of here. That's fine. Okay, let's get, I'm gonna go grab some more tack solution real quick. And then we'll get started on getting all these extra things down. So it's a 70% rubbing alcohol and we mix it down to about 20% rubbing alcohol to 80% water. And with these type of pump sprayers, you know, you only fill up to the top lines here roughly, because this you need for the air so you get some pressure. Anyway, that's how we do it. If we fill all the way up to the top, then the pressure that you put in there isn't much, and you're constantly then pumping at the beginning to keep some pressure in there because there's no room for the air to really pressurize. So leaving yourself some extra space on the top makes it so you're not pumping and pumping and pumping at the beginning here. All right, this seems like the worst part. So I want to get this down first here. Let's get some tack in here. And then I'm gonna, let me grab my sprayer here. Okay, I wanna make sure we're gliding really good because if we're dry and we come across this, it's a possibility we'll stretch this material a little bit and then that's gonna create a distortion right there along that line. We don't want that. So let's get the bulk of things out and then any little spot that is wanting to pop up, we will do a swipe and hold on that. Okay, let's check all these edges as we come around. Got a little bit more, a little bit on that edge. We squeegee it out. All right, over here now. Okay, again, tack under, slip on top. Go ahead and squeegee this stuff, get out the bulk of that, and then we can swipe and hold this stuff here at the edge to make sure that those fingers go down and stay down. Okay, now I'm going to take care of this guy here, see if we can sneak some tack in there. And we'll go ahead and get that squeegeed out. And then I'm gonna do a swipe and hold right there where it's trying to pop up. And I think we've got a little bit right there that's coming up. I'm gonna try a swipe and hold on that without any tack solution underneath there. It's not much, so I don't imagine it's gonna be, you know, working against us too hard out there. Now we need to get all of this down here. So I'm gonna spray this in here. I was kind of hoping we could get that to run down into here, but it's definitely not happening. So let's go ahead, get this lifted up a little bit here, and we'll sneak some, oh, good thing. So all this isn't fully stuck down yet. And so we were able to lift that up and just spray a bunch of tack solution in there. So I'm gonna get this part pushed down first. So I feel like that's gonna be a little bit easier. And then let's get that part down. Let's get this squeegeed out as far as the bulk of it goes. And then what I'm gonna do is hold on that edge. So just basically swipe and hold. And I'm gonna get another squeegee here, or let's see how that goes. And then let's do a swipe and hold here. I mean, because what we're doing right now is extremely temporary. This is not going to last, because this is going to want to just continue to pop up, and we don't want this popping up and popping up on this edge. And so what we need to do is get this lifted up off of the fender here and off of the A-pillar, like that, and then get that tucked in over this edge. Okay, there we go. Okay, just make sure that that's tucked in there. It's not going to be popping up, because popping up is going to cause little distortions on the edge, because we've got some stretch on that material. And if that pops up, the stretch goes away then, because it releases. Let's pull this back just a little bit, and I'm going to just flood that with some tack in there. And then push this back down. Okay, let's get this part rolled over that edge and tucked down. Okay, there we go. That should hold a lot better. Now, I also don't want too much tension right here, because that is putting tension on the material right at this edge. And so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to trim right here like this, and get rid of some of that tension, and that should definitely help that from pulling this section up here. Okay, so let's make sure that all that is in there and staying down, and that is looking really good. Now, we did have this one spot out here pop up again. So oh, I don't know if I got that. Did I get that in there? There we go. Okay. All right, and let's go ahead and get that squeegeed out, and then we'll do a swipe and hold on that edge. And now that we're using tack solution on that, it's not coming back. All right, let's double check all of our edges here. Make sure that everything is down. We don't have any water on the edge, any air pockets. A little bit right here, you see that? So let's squeegee that out. Okay, and that is actually just squeegeeing over and not going out. Oh, but there it went, I think. Let's just double check that. It found a spot to escape. I thought that that whole edge was basically then pre-tacking or tacking down, and so it won't want to go through unless you pop it up sometimes, but it found a spot. Okay, just checking these edges. So during these installs, I'm pretty much always taking some kind of hood prop there and putting it underneath the hood, so the hood is open a little ways. And that allows us to get this hood sitting higher than the A-pillar and the fender. And that allows us to stay with some tack on here. That allows this edge to stay nice and flat and not continue to pop up. Now on the other side, it didn't quite work out that way. Maybe if I would have opened the hood even a little bit further, that would have corrected that. But you know, sometimes it's just not an option. And some cars you're gonna have where the more you open up the hood, the further this dives down in. What did I just work on the other day that did that? I mean, some of the Teslas do that. And I can't remember what car that was or what the name of it was. I mean, I can picture exactly where I had the problems on that car. But some of them, they hinge like right here, and then when you open this dives down in. Oh, that was on a Porsche Panamera. This part dives in, and so the more you open, the worse you get. But this is how you want it if you can get it that way. Great, well, we've got everything squeegeed out. This is now sitting here and it's going to cure for just a little bit. I'm gonna just keep double checking here to make sure that none of this is popping up onto the face here. I do see a little bit here that it's starting to break loose just a little, and I don't even want to allow it to think that that's an option. So we'll go ahead, get all this pushed down again. Okay. All right, so with this hood today, I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit here for a little bit, let this top start to cure, and then we'll come back, trim the edges, let all that dry out, and then we'll get our wrap on. So I'll see you guys back in just a little bit. All right, we've let this sit for a few, I don't know, it's probably actually been a half hour. I'm gonna go ahead now and we're gonna trim these edges, and then we'll open this up and let it dry. So today we're gonna start right out here. I'm gonna give myself about 1/4 of an inch hanging over. You can see that I've got some tension on the material here, and that's just to help it not bunch up on the blade. That way we keep a nice straight line here, and more not straight as it would be nice and smooth. So if it bunches up, you're gonna get a jagged line. And then I've got my pointer finger running along the edge of the hood there. And that is helping ensure that I keep the same distance away from the hood. Okay, so and then what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna leave the same amount of hanging over, and I'm gonna hope that this hood opens up and we can do a melt method. So we're going across the paint there. Just be super gentle. Okay, and then we're going back through now. There's some tension on this material already, so that's helping me just be able to cut that without putting a tug on it. Now let's get this popped up here off the fender. Be careful when you're popping this up. If you pop this up too quickly and not very methodically, then when you pop this up, you can pop it up off, it'll go continue, break loose, and then just continue and pop this up off the hood. So always be really careful with that. Let's go ahead and start cutting across to the side here. Okay, now get all this removed. I'm starting to get a little wide there, so I'm gonna bring it in just a little. Yeah, and you don't want this sticking and then popping up. You can see I've got a little bit more jagged there, a little bit wavy, and that is gonna be, you know, that's just gonna cause that problem. So let's get that up and off of the fender, and then we'll continue here. Okay, all of this should have plenty of tension on it. That we should just be able to cut right through this. It's already got the tension. We don't need to be doing the pulling on it. Okay, let's get this lifted up now. Go ahead and take this across the front. Know where your hood is going because it does round down a little bit here. So just be aware of that so you don't accidentally cut straight over and hit the paint, or just screw up your excess for hanging over to wrap around to the back. Okay. So I'm keeping tension on there. I'm pulling back away from the blade and then pulling out away from the blade. And that's what keeps good tension on this edge here so that we don't let it bunch up and then get a jagged edge. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it does make it easier. The cutting, it makes it a all much smoother process, because if you're jagged underneath there a little bit, you know, it's not the end of the world. It just doesn't look as good when the customer sees it. So we want that edge to basically hide and disappear and have nobody even notice really that it's there underneath the hood. If it's more jagged, it'd be more noticeable. Okay, so this now, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get it off the fender here, just being really careful not to lift it up, pull too hard on it and get it to lift off of the hood. And then we're gonna start over here. So actually I'll start back out here again. Let's come across. Oop. So you see how that got all fat right there? That's because I don't have my finger running against the hood. And there, I didn't have good tension on the material. Let's see how many mistakes I can make on this while we're recording it. That's great. Goodness gracious. All right, coming across. Now my thumb is the finger that's running across the material, or across the edge of the fender or hood. And then we're gonna come over here to the fender, and then we'll go ahead and cut right down fender here. Unfortunately, there is a ripple in the material, and that's not going to be something we want to try to cut over the top of. So right there and right over like that. Keep going on that tear line. Can I do it?
He shoots. He scores!
Great. All right. So we've got everything trimmed now, and we're gonna go ahead and watch back here while we open this and make sure that this isn't going to like catch and pop up off of the hood, and it's not. It comes away from it, so that's great. Oh, look at that. That's wanting to come up a little bit. That's interesting. Let's get some tack in there and get that pushed down. Now that we've released that tension off of the A-pillar, that doesn't want to stay stuck down. It means it wasn't fully curing right there. There was a little bit of moisture potentially on that edge. All right, so just using a swipe and hold there. Okay, so I think we're gonna be in good shape now, although I will be double checking that periodically just to make sure it's staying down. All right, so at this point I'm gonna go work on some other things on this car, and then we will get back around to wrapping all of these edges once they're fully dry. All right, let's go ahead and wrap all the edges on this hood. All right, so we're gonna warm up this edge here a bit. You know, and really you could just 45 that edge, like from there to there, just cut straight across, just over the edge of the paint, and that would be a really good corner. But because I can reach the back so well, I am going to melt method that. So let's start rounding this stuff in. Okay, then we'll come around this turn here, or the bend. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and run my hand across this edge to make sure they were off the face of the hood. And just around the, so they're around the side a little bit here. All right, now basically it's as far as when it's closed, everything you can see is pushed down now already. And so now what we're gonna do is finish wrapping this around. And actually for this back part, I'm gonna go ahead and come on in here. I'm gonna put some heat on here on the back side of the film. It's gonna be really hard to get it otherwise. Okay, and we'll go ahead and start here, go across, bring it on back across. Okay, down. Double check it. Make sure it's all the way down. Good. Now let's deal a little bit with this back part right here. So you can see this stuff. Yeah, I mean, really, the melt method is gonna work good there, but it's a lot of material. So let's heat up this other stuff first here and push this down. Okay. Now, let's get this corner. So, get that good and warmed up, and then push it down to itself. Okay, let's take a look at it. Beauty, look at that. I mean, it's a great corner. It's a little bit hard to get to there, but the final product, I'd say, is really good. Okay, let's get a little bit of heat on this corner and then all the way down this edge here. Okay, and I want to get the corner down first, and then we can go ahead and start wrapping the rest of this in between the two corners here. It takes about 3 to 4 passes to fully wrap that film underneath the hood. You don't want to wrap it underneath there in one pass because you're biting off really more than you can chew, and you're going to end up folding it over on itself underneath the hood. Okay, so there, roll this stuff to underneath the hood. Okay, there we go. Now let's get this here. So about 6 seconds. Great. Look at that. I mean, that, I don't care what anybody says. That looks fantastic. That's a great edge, and we've got full coverage on it. I love that edge, or corner really. It's more about the corner in those, on those. Okay, we're gonna start here in the corner. Get some heat on that material. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this under a little. And it looks like when I wrapped, oh, nope, okay, it was close though. This part here was almost wrapped around and stuck adhesive to adhesive side. Let's get a little bit of heat on this. And we'll go ahead and start rolling this over. Okay, we'll get some heat on this here. Roll that under. Okay, come on in here. Just go straight. I'm not going back and forth with this. I'm just rolling it basically straight under, not going back and forth like this. Now let's get some heat on this very corner. So that's about a 6 count. Okay, that looks really good. There's a little bit of extra material right here, same as there was on the other side. Okay, I'll go ahead and heat this up now. Okay, take this corner over first and then work away from that. Okay. Let's finish up this corner. Just wrapping it, and then we'll work our way away from it. Okay. Yeah, five to 6 count is plenty on that. All right, let's get this under. Now we did have a little bit of material bunch up right there. I want to see, we kind of didn't roll the whole corner there first. I want to see if we roll this corner first, if we can get it to have less material bunched up. And you can see that it does, but it's, you know, it still is going to need extra work, so it doesn't really matter that it did a little better. We wanted it all better or not at all, really. So okay. So let's actually get all this down here first. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and let's see if we can get like a, can we get a real close-up of this? Okay, so we'll go, we've got some fingers there, as you can see. So 5 or 6 count there, and then we'll push them down and then kind of back this way a little bit. And then we'll roll off of that. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go over this badge real quick. I would definitely leave it on the car. There's a few things about it that make it very difficult to take off, and then you're gonna really probably need to buy new ones in order to put it back on, and you're going to have to put it back on the hood because there's holes in the hood for the alignment of it. And so when you're trying to take this off with the tool, with the string underneath it, the edges of this are so incredibly sharp that you don't even make it like two sawing motions and it snaps that piece of string. And so I eventually just had to take a tool like this and get underneath it and just cram it through underneath there, and I ended up bending the back one a little bit. And so that's gonna be very easy to do, especially right there. But this one I was a little bit less careful with because I knew we weren't reinstalling these, but unfortunately this front one has to go back on because of the holes. So this one is just garbage anyway. Now, with this one, I did go ahead and put some gloss black on it because the customer wanted it gone, and I figured that looks way better than the one that's on there, and it matches the rest of the car here. And I did it in a way, if she doesn't like it, that I can just pick the edge of it and pull it off. So we didn't charge for this, and doing that sucks. So I won't be charging for that because I won't be doing this. That was just for funsies. On the back of this here, there were 2 of these little nipple things that were like stuck to the back, and they come right off. They're just stuck on there. That's garbage. I'm not gonna cut these holes out around this, and I'm gonna go ahead and just set this back in place like that. And it's just gonna be a little bit of a guess on alignment. So, because we don't have that, and I didn't realize those were under there, so I didn't make a stencil for this. So actually, you know what? Let's get this in place really well. Actually, I'm gonna do this a little bit different now. We're gonna get that in place, make sure that we're covering those holes, and then I'm going to do a couple measurements, and then we'll do some marks on the paint protection film with a wax pencil so that we know that's aligned correctly, and then we'll go ahead and remove the adhesive, or we'll expose the adhesive and stick it. Okay, so I'm going to measure from here straight over, so we're just above, it's like 3 1/8, and then from right about there over, but we can't come to the bottom, we need to be up higher. So let's try like right from the middle, and then we're about 3 1/2. So right from about the middle, and we're almost 3 1/2. So we're so close, I'm gonna call that good. And then from the bottom of this down, we're at just over 1.5 inches. No, just under 1.5 inches. We're basically 1 3/8. And then from this down, we're 1 3/8 inches right there. So that's gonna be really good placement right there. Let's go ahead and put some marks on this. Okay, and those are just going to be helpful. Now, the other thing you need to make sure is that, you know, the spacing on there, like this part seems closer than that part to the lettering. This side seems closer to the lettering than the top part. So this is gonna be a little bit funky, but it's that or buy a new badge. And because we did not anticipate having to put these back on, we did not price for that, and so we're just going to put this back on. It's not a huge deal. It's a little bit of a headache because of the way that this, because I didn't make a stencil for it more, really. It's better to pick at the corner, closer to the corner anyway on these. So if we ever do another Kia, I'm gonna just tell them they're probably gonna have to buy new badging if they want it back on there, or if there's holes under it and they have to have it back on there. All right, so we remember that we were closer to this side, so that looks good right there. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of hold that down, and then this side here, I'm gonna hold like this and align that. So right there looks good, and then let's stick all this down. Okay, and then let's go ahead and clean this off. I definitely think the black looks good comparatively to the, I mean, the other one looks fine too, but it really stands out. And I would want on my car something more muted. I think that's kind of what the customer, why they didn't want them back on too, is just because they're, you know, it doesn't really match the car paint and everything with the, you know, basically the two tones here. Okay. Okay, that looks really good. I think she'll be happy with that. And if she's not, take that right off of there. All right, terrific. Well, that's the process of bulking film on the hood of this Kia K5. This is a 2025 model. We've got everything down, everything wrapped, no exposed edges or anything. Got the emblem back on there, and this thing is ready to go home. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe it down, and we're set. So I appreciate you guys taking a look at this video. If you found something helpful, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.